right time, you know? Red leather, yellow leather, red leather, yellow leather, red leather, yellow leather. Let me hear you say it.
Red leather, yellow leather, red leather, yellow leather, red leather, yellow leather.
Red leather, yellow leather.
All right, Em.
Are you recording already?
Yeah, it's rolling, but we haven't started yet.
Okay.
Yeah. We can just sit here for a second. I'm going to do an intro.
Ooh, I like it. I
and
love
I've
it
got
already.
some questions for you right out the gate. Yeah, okay, hang on.
Red leather, yellow leather, red leather, yellow leather. Is that going to get annoying real fast?
What? The red leather, yellow leather?
Yeah.
No, not for me. I think it's dope.
Okay, cool.
Maybe I'll think of others that I remember too as we go on.
Where did you learn this? Did you take a theater?
Never took theater. I took guitar lessons, and my teacher, Joe, taught me some things, but I don't think he taught me that. I don't know where I picked that one up from.
Okay.
Yeah, that one's... I don't know if that one's even real. It might just be a joke.
You just tricked me, bro.
That just might be a joke. Yeah. You ready?
Yeah, let's go, man.
Okay, so thank you for everyone for tuning in to another installment of Inside the Artist Studio. My guest today is Emmanuel Santoyo,
Hey, how's it going?
community leader, skateboard pioneer, and founder of the not-for-profit Harbor Chicago. Emmy, thank you so much for doing this.
Dude, thank you so much for having me.
Good morning, good morning. So we should talk about the setting really quick, where we're at.
Okay.
This is Oaklawn, Illinois. We're outside, so that's unique for this podcast. And we are on location at the Oaklawn Skate Park in Oaklawn, Illinois.
Yes, we are.
You've hosted things here before?
Yeah.
For the harbor, right?
We had a couple barbecues, a couple contests, water balloon fights.
Dang. Did you win?
I didn't get wet, actually. I let the kids do it. One thing that I learned in youth group was it's fun to make them beat each other up. So indoors we do dodgeball. Outdoors I decided to switch it up and do water balloons.
Nice.
They had a blast. I didn't get wet though, so.
So you won.
I won. Yeah.
You creamed them.
It was amazing, but it was like 100 degrees out that day,
Mm.
and I didn't want them to die, so I was trying to be responsible.
Right. That's actually a very good thing to do then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
So my first question for you though is, this is probably the most important question I'm going to ask you, honestly. And I don't know, we'll see what you say. So from the observable universe
Mm-hmm.
to the atom, which is more mysterious to you and why? The very, very big or the incredibly small?
I think the incredibly small. And I would have to say that because from my experience, you can't really have the big things without the small things. And those little tiny things just make up everything that we see, that we can comprehend, that makes sense. So, yeah, that intrigues me way more is the little things. Because even in, like, there's, if I can relate it to a painting,
Please do, yeah.
you can stand back and look at the painting
Mm-hmm.
and just be mind blown
Mm-hmm.
by everything going on. But then you look at a single stroke and you see the way that it was created. You see even the attitude by each.
You're gonna get me geeking out now, because that's what I study and that's what I'm into.
Yeah.
So that'll get me going for sure. But I agree 100%. The way that things stack upon each other to build something much larger. You think about the human body, it's just organism on top of organism on top of organism to make a body on a planet in a solar system. So it goes all the way up and goes all the way down, really. There's better science and better math for the very, very big. At least we think it's sound science,
Mm-hmm.
but atoms are still mysterious in that there's no good math or science to explain what's happening inside of them.
And don't they behave differently when you're viewing them? Isn't that crazy?
Have I heard that? Is that so?
I'm pretty sure I
That's
learned that in,
wild.
in science class.
Oh, wow.
Mr. Noon, probably.
That's amazing. I did not know that. I hope that's true.
Because, like, I think there was a study that, like, they were, like, viewing them through I don't know what machine, but they would behave differently when you were studying them.
That's
Maybe-
so funny.
Maybe I'm completely wrong.
That's hilarious. That's also scary. Somewhat scary
Yeah.
to think that these building blocks, or what we assume are to be building blocks, are conscious somehow.
Yeah.
Blows my mind.
We'll do the research. Don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure that's something I heard.
No, I love that. I'm
Fact
gonna
check it,
I'm
fact
gonna
check it.
check that out for sure because I'll geek out on that so much. So tell me a little bit about the Harbor Chicago.
A little bit. Oh, but sorry. I am so sorry, but I wanted to give you this before I forget.
Oh
It's
no,
just
what do we have here?
a little sticker package and a
Ooh,
pin, dude.
beautiful.
Here.
Let me see these. Yeah. Oh, I love it. These are awesome. Hold them up for the camera here. Sweet little pin.
Yeah, keep them.
Awesome. I'm gonna throw this on my denim right now. Probably.
Yes. All right.
Yeah.
A little bit about the harbor. I mean, I think there's a lot, but you want me to focus on a little bit?
You know what? Let's not talk about the harbor right now.
Okay.
Let's talk about.
Wait, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, please.
Just a really random one,
Mhm.
and this is one that I try to reflect on daily.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll cut it to just this morning because we haven't had the whole day yet. But what is the high of your morning? What is the low of your morning?
The high of my morning. I'm gonna start with the low. The low of my morning started yesterday when I didn't go to bed
Ooh.
until like 1:00 in the morning.
Ooh.
So that was the low of my morning. Just being not tip top first thing. How I like to be fresh in the morning. And the high is this. This is when we began. The high was when I plugged the last thing in and then leaned over and talked in the mic. I'm like, all right, cool, we're ready to go.
Dude,
You
that's
know?
amazing.
Yeah. So far we're off to a great start. This is an amazing head start of a day already.
Amen. Look at
Amen.
that.
Love it. I love it.
Productive.
All right, cool. So, yeah, let's not talk about the harbor just yet. Let's start with the man, Emmy. Tell us about you. You're from southwest side of Chicago. You grew up in Summit, or you were born?
I was born and raised. Well, I was born in Berwyn, in a hospital over there, but I was born and raised in Summit.
Nice.
So I grew up there, and yeah, that's like home.
Mm-hmm. And you've got brothers and sisters?
I got one brother, Christian. If you're watching this, I love you, bro.
Awesome. And you've lived in this area your whole life. This is your home. These are your people. These are the people of Venice, the Banale. These are your
Yeah, the streets.
Yep. So tell me a little bit what life is like growing up here in the southwest side of Chicago.
I think it's interesting that you ask that because you don't know what's different until you step out of that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were to ask me then, I'd be like, it's just normal every day. But then, like, I remember my first time going to Indiana, and my mom had a friend out there that she would go see, and we would go to her friend had a daughter, so we would go to like her birthday parties. But every time we got there, it was just so different. Like the streets were different, the vibe was different, the environment was different, and that really threw me off. Like it made me feel like, where the heck am I?
This is like rural Indiana, or this is
I don't know, maybe city Indiana.
It
I
was
don't know.
city
It felt
Indiana?
rural. It
Okay.
felt rural, but I don't really even know where it was. I just knew it was Indiana. But
Mhm.
growing up, I felt like it was more of like everyone kind of knew each other. Everyone knew each other's business.
Mhm.
I had I have a lot of family in Summit, so in my head it was like you can't really get into trouble without everyone knowing. So
So it had that small town feel,
Yeah,
for better or worse.
yeah,
Yeah,
for better or worse, definitely.
that's funny. And so I met you in high school. I met you when I was probably 15, 14, when I was a freshman, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you'd already been running the streets of Summit for some time, and that's when I had just moved to Summit.
Yeah.
So that's when I met you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we were fast friends, I like to think.
What was the, um, do you remember our first interaction or?
Our very first interaction, I want to say, was probably just hanging out in the hallways in the morning somewhere.
Okay.
I feel like my first memory of you is probably outside of the big circles that used to happen outside of Miss Grabowski's room
Oh,
every
yeah.
morning, and that's where all the cool kids found themselves,
Mhm.
in that circle hanging out. And yeah, and so you're a year older than I was,
Mhm.
am still. So you're probably 15 or 16, just a little punk skater kid.
Yep.
you know. So I don't want to lose the stuff you just gave me.
It's fine. If it's fine, we'll find it and I'll give you a new one.
I have both.
Okay.
Was there 3?
There was 3.
No.
There was
dude.
3 Pokemon cards.
Don't do this to me.
It's fine.
Okay.
She'll find her way.
She'll find her way. It's better this way.
It's better this way. Amen, dude. Look at you.
So I'm curious. You don't have to go too deep into it, but I am curious about what it was like growing up for you. Your family dynamic, just what has set you on such a righteous path, and what is, people want to hear about all of the amazing things, but they also want to hear about the things that you had to think your way out of.
I mean, I don't know how deep is deep.
Go as deep as comes to mind.
Okay. So just right off the bat, I would say I grew up in a broken home.
Mm-hmm.
My parents arguing a lot, and then eventually getting a divorce at 5th grade,
Mm-hmm.
and then being kind of like confused as to what's going on, what the heck what is this, and I don't know if it was the culture of Summit or the culture of like Hispanic culture, but everything was always hush hush. Like, you don't talk about problems, and you got to keep it out of the light. So I never talked about it, and a lot of times I would feel like I was the only one. But then getting into the realization that everyone around me is going through something.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned that really fast. Like, I'm not the only one here, and it's kind of like no one's talking about it, So everyone always, I felt like, put up a composure of everything's okay.
Yeah.
And I adopted that.
Yeah.
And so I hid my pain behind a smile. Like, I knew that a lot of the stuff that was going on wasn't normal.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't right. So anytime people would ask me, I'd be like, no, everything's cool, everything's fine. But then I'd go home and feel a different way. And then that brought a lot of insecurity. Reflecting on it now, I didn't really have an identity. And I think that caused me to crave the attention of others. It almost to idolize it and worship it. Like, I needed it. I needed to feel accepted. I needed to feel noticed. And that just I think that did a lot of damage to not me, but a lot of people around me. And so the broken home thing was one thing, but then how I reacted to it was a very different thing. And I was young at the time. I'll give myself that grace, but a lot of things I deeply regret. Like, if I can go vulnerable with you,
Mm-hmm.
I remember wanting to be a part of the cool crowd so much, and this is like 5th grade, 6th grade, like around that time. wanting to be around the cool crowd so much that I, like, so when my parents were fighting, it was really just me and my brother. We were the only ones who had each other's back.
Mm-hmm.
My mom was always working. My dad was in and out. And so it was just me and him. But I remember wanting to be a part of a crowd so much that I told my brother, like, hey, you can't hang out with me because, like, I'm barely getting into this group. I'm barely hanging on. And for me to be dragging my brother into everything, that's like they're going to kick me out of the group. And I wish deeply that I never did that, because that, I think, definitely had an impact on our relationship. But I feel like, affected him growing up too. His older brother, my younger brother.
Yeah.
And then
I know how you feel, because you're empathizing for your brother's struggle with your own. You're going through it the same. He's probably going through it tenfold.
Yeah.
So in hindsight, I understand how that could be.
Dude, it was just crazy, because if I knew what I know now, it would have been different. Like, you can't value the opinion of others as much as you value the opinion of yourself. And then also the true identity that we all really have is that we're all family. And I feel like in those ways I left my brother behind, because I was trying to figure it out. So I kind of went on a rant, but
No, that's great. That's that's what the people want to hear, really. I wasn't expecting you to say everything you just said. And having known you for so long, it sort of shocks me to just be learning this, because our stories are uncanny. I come from a broken home as well. Parents split when I was about 10. So the things you're describing, I'm so familiar with, and it's I understand the gravity of that struggle. You know, when I first met you, we had just moved to Summit because we were kicked out of an apartment, and my parents were distracted, to say the least. So, that struggle is something that is inherent in me. But something that helped me a lot to sort of forgive myself for the things I would do, because I've also done things of shame in my adolescence. When it wasn't until I started my first year at university, and I took a class, adolescent psychology, in order to become a teacher. And we learn about this thing called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And I don't know why it took until I was in my late 20s for someone to explain this to me. Because when you lay it over your life, and it's a life similar to one you've described, it makes sense where the holes come from and how we react to things. It's basically a philosophy that states there's certain things a human has to have in their life in order to move on, to grow, starting very simple with just the basic needs of food, shelter. But then the very next thing on the list is like love and support. And then the rest of the things down the list only happen if the first thing can be achieved. So after learning that information, that there's textbook information like just out there about what's going on inside my mind, or had been going on inside my mind for so many years, it made me a little sick that no one's ever like, hey, dude, check it out. All these things you're feeling and going through, it's okay, because we know this and this. So you'll be all right, I think. So it's silly that because when you say that you didn't have an identity and you felt lost, you felt like you were wandering, it's probably most certainly just a direct result of your family falling apart. That is your identity, especially at that age. And then you wander. I did that for a long time too. I would act out all the time. I was the craziest, silliest, always in trouble.
Tell me a story.
Tell me a story. I don't know. There's so many that come to mind, and none that I'm super proud of.
Okay.
One of the funniest stories, I won't tell a story about myself, but I'll tell you a story about a friend of ours. We had both been in trouble, and we were in the dean's office of high school.
Mm.
And I was in there for something else, probably like just talking back or acting out. I forget exactly. But our friend, you know him, he's a tall, lanky fella, had just adopted a pair of Heelys.
Nice.
And so he was getting torn out in one of the dean's offices, and we catch eyes from across the room. Do you remember that? 2-step, 3-step
Mm-hmm.
up into the back part of the dean's office of Argo?
Yep.
So we made eye contact, and he just glided towards me immediately, like jumps the 3-stair, toe tap,
Wow.
lands 360, dramatic as hell. Everybody claps. It was the
Wow.
most high school thing I've ever seen.
I bet you that was epic.
It was epic. It still plays in my mind as an epic moment of life. And so that's not something that I did per se, but that's something that, because I was acting out, I got to witness.
The beauty of brokenness, right?
Right.
Wow. Okay. Well, I do want to hear other stories. We'll save it out. We'll save it out. For others.
If something comes to mind, I'll share, certainly, but I don't know. We used to do ridiculous things. This isn't really for attention, I suppose, because we were doing it as a group, but we used to play this game where we would hang out on the street in, a group of 4, 5, 6 on the corner and wait for a cop to roll by, and then just run. Everyone runs in different directions just to cause chaos and cause, panic in the neighborhood.
Did something break out?
So they would freak out and chase us, and they'd round us all up and say, what the hell are you guys doing? So you were chasing us. I don't know. Like, we were kids. We were like, 13, 14, 15. We weren't doing anything wrong. We were just being ridiculous individuals. But
See, that sounds fun, though.
it was fun.
That sounds like you were just having a good old time.
That was such a good time. Just take over all of the town's safety resources for an hour or two because they're chasing teenagers everywhere.
How long did it last, though? Like, how long?
Hours. Sometimes it was hours.
They would just be looking for you guys?
There was one time I was running for at least 2 hours, and there was a couple times I almost got, snatched up. I was running through, he cut me off running through a parking lot, jumped out of his car, but I was able to pit maneuver out of his hands.
Wow.
Kept going. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Terrible, terrible things. Terrible waste of time, but a lot of fun.
And then that was incorporated into your career as a track star?
Track star. That was my brief stint as a track star. I suppose so. I suppose they're directly influenced by each other because you had to run.
If we can break down the psychology of why did we join track? Like, I joined track,
Why did
and
we join track?
I went only as far as I could, only as far as my grades would let me, to be honest. I wasn't able to participate because I had a couple Fs. So
Yeah, I don't think I made it to the first meet.
I definitely didn't.
It's so funny. I don't know why we joined track. I think we were having fun because during the practices and the tryouts, we were sort of doing the routines and running the routines and talking to the coaches and everything. But then in moments, we were sneaking away and running around the school and goofing off. I think we just wanted to goof off at track because it was fun. I wanted to do the hurdles. I told everyone that I was there to do the hurdles.
Mhm.
I can't do a damn hurdle.
And I saw my cousin, and she was doing pole vaulting, so that was naturally where I was like, oh, this is what I'm gonna do too.
Mm-hmm.
And they were hyping me up, yeah, you're short, you're strong, you could do this. And I was like, yes, I could do this, but my grades didn't let me. So.
Yeah.
But I feel like I know we're wandering off, but I feel like before we joined, we had a pep talk to each other.
Did we?
Yeah, it was a deep thing, okay, we're going to do this, and we're going to do something different and get out of our comfort zone. And we did it. We held each other accountable until...
Something we, dreamed up in lunch or something?
In gym.
In gym?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because we had gym together. That's right.
And these were the crazy conversations we had during walking around the field.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that?
I remember that, yeah, vividly. I remember specifically you talking about creating a movie, and then we would talk about scenes that could exist. I don't remember the plot, really, but I remember portions of scenes you would describe to me.
Yeah, I just don't know what. Yeah, that's just something.
I think we were trying to write a movie about ourselves, and we didn't know it, probably.
Yeah, I would agree.
Most likely. But here we are, 12 years later.
Yeah, I would say 12.
Because if yeah. And we're at the skate park and we're having a conversation finally. You know,
And
if it
yeah,
only
and
took this long.
this is so different. And the work that you put behind this, I can tell that you're very serious about it and you're passionate. And I love it, dude.
Thank you
So
so
I
much.
commend you for it.
I've realized that. So I'm obsessed with research about things I like anyway.
Okay.
And there's no good resource for, well, that's not true. There's a million podcasts, right? And everyone tries to deter you and says, why are you going to start a podcast? And that blows my mind because it's kind of like saying there's too many pencils. There's too much paper. Like there's too many good ideas. And I just don't believe that to be true. So I wanted to start the podcast to collect these conversations because there's not a great resource I'm aware of where there's candid conversations with people of a small community existing, being mostly creative people, artists, designers, educators, community leaders, you know, pioneers, people with ideas to share and ideas worth talking about and sharing about. So I want to do it as a service to my community to collect these conversations and share them with as many people as possible because these are real inspirational stories, you know.
Yeah.
Your story alone, you know, to be a happy, healthy young man still
Hey.
after everything is such a success, and I champion it so much, you know. It's not easy, and I know personally very well it's not easy to just choose happiness and choose success.
I got into a conversation with one of my friends, and your name came up. Like, hey, we're gonna do a podcast. He's like, dude, I remember there was a time where he was they said he was angry, and then something just flipped, and he was Happy Charlie. And I was like, dude, that's intriguing because what was it? What
I don't know what you're talking about specifically, but was this a recent thing someone encountered, or this was like when we were kids?
we were kids.
I don't know. I really don't know because I've always wanted to just be happy. You know, I was always happy if it wasn't for everything around me. Is how I feel. You know, the family stuff diminished me a lot and took a lot of my spirit and joy away. And so when I was trying to find myself during my adolescent years, I would get sad. I'd get real sad and go inward. And when I felt normal, I was happy and I would hang out and want to be with friends and converse and create. You know, so I don't know the specific moment when something flipped, but it flips all the time. Less now. It's less on and off. It's mostly on, but I don't know precisely.
If I could be real honest with you, I remember you probably not even knowing it, but you helping me out a lot.
Is that so?
Yeah, by your attitude and by the way you carried yourself. To be honest, I never saw you sad
That's crazy.
because I remember when I was going through it at that time, I would look forward to hanging out with you in gym.
Oh yeah.
Because that took my I don't want to say it distracted me, but it helped me a lot. It didn't distract me from the problems that I was going through, but it helped me to see them in a different perspective. And I was like, man, Charlie's happy. Like, I want to be like that. And like, why can't I just like let myself loose and get into crazy? Like, I think that's like a thing that.
Little did you know that like I was so sad I'm gonna make everyone around me like laugh for a minute. You know, that's kind of how I was feeling about it.
Wow.
Because there was a time, oh my God, this is so embarrassing coming back to my head thinking about
Let's
it.
go.
There's a time I didn't talk. I just didn't speak. I just wouldn't talk because I felt so diminished. It's terrible. And there was moments of that. There was like days of that at a time when I was a kid and in high school even.
That's powerful though.
It's fucked up is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
But it's powerful to see what the pain produced because it made you stronger.
Yeah, certainly. And I don't know. I don't know if I could pin down exactly what influenced it, but at a certain point, you just realize that you can't hold anger, you can't hold sadness, because otherwise you just don't open your mouth. And what sort of existence is that.
Yeah.
So you let those things go, and then you start building, and then once you get into a build phase, everything gets exciting again, I guess.
That's beautiful, bro. I'm learning about you as we talk.
I know, we're learning about each other. This is cool. This is why podcasts are awesome, because we're having these conversations. Like, it almost feels like guilty. Like, I feel guilty talking like this sometimes.
Why, dude?
Because it's such raw, vulnerable information, such good, valuable like data and information about people and how they interface with the world. And that's so invaluable. I don't know, because I feel like now more than ever, especially the youth who are our age when we were in high school. That doesn't make sense, but
I get it.
Yeah. I feel like, and this just could be my bias and perspective, but I feel like they feel lost more now than ever. And so now that things are very instant and information comes in bursts, I think it's important to hear people talking and conversing, just because people don't share like this. You know, you get these kind of conversations from close friends and family a few times a year. You know, think about an aquifer of meaningful conversations that people can use and relate to, if only for escapism or for entertainment or just for perspective. It feels important to me.
It's deeply important, and I think that it's more necessary now than ever, because I like that you said that we have these conversations a few times a year, because as time goes on, I feel like we'll have them less.
Yeah, and I want to make a point to have them more. I want to have them like weekly, like daily. I love talking and just like holding court, ranting on an idea and taking it everywhere. I love it so much.
Me too.
It's it brings me so much joy.
Because you get to reflect on it throughout the whole day.
Yeah. And
that's something that if we don't have these talks, what are we going to fill ourselves up with? Like Instagram and social media.
Right.
And I think that's a big deal, because a lot of people, I think, in my perspective, feel lost now because they see a perception and highlight reels of what they think people are living daily, and then they look at themselves and say, I'm not living like that, and that sucks.
I know, it's scary, because you see how sincere they feel that too, because it's what they're inundated with. They're indoctrinated with it.
Like we're learning it, but they're being taught that's everything.
Yeah, it is their everything, because it's, you know, from the moment they're born now, it's in their pocket, it's in their hand, it's in their mind, it's in their head. They're cyborgs, dude. They're not even real human beings any longer.
Well, back in my day, I'm gonna sound old, but back in my day, we didn't have this. I think we had MySpace, and that was the beginnings of it. But like every day, it's just getting deeper. Those roots are growing deeper and deeper, and that's gonna be a little bit harder to weed out. But there's hope.
Yeah, there's hope. You and I and others, we're a curious generation, because we're the generation where we went from having absolutely no tech or very low tech to everything is online. Everything is tapped in. Everything is recorded, observed,
crazy.
You know, and so we've watched the flip, and we've had to change with it. I was still a late adopter to tech. I didn't get a smartphone until I was like 20.
Really?
Yeah. And so it blows my mind seeing, you know, 8-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 6-year-olds on this. I don't know what they're doing on there. It's probably cool and fun for them, but
it's crazy. I don't know. I don't think we should have that. I think it's something that, like, it's too crazy for us to be able to. It'll control us before we control it, you know?
Absolutely. And I've sort of I have like a one-man protest against tech in a way, because I don't like the way it changes the way people think. It edits the way people think. So this sounds super pretentious, and I know it's like the most hipster thing in the world, but I've been typing on a typewriter because I've discovered that it doesn't just... So what it does really well is it puts words on paper. And when you're trying to write, that's most important. But there's this other little thing it does that I didn't even realize it was doing. It captures your voice in a way that typing, on a word processor doesn't, because when you're sitting down to write, you're reflecting and you're thinking. So when you type something out, you say, oh, I met Emmy at 9:30 in the morning. We hung out at the skate park for 2 hours. It was cool. We did this. We talked about these things. Oh, wait, no. It wasn't 9:30. It was 9 o'clock in the morning we met. And so you have to it captures your voice in a way that feels more authentic and more real. And because of that, I just enjoy it more. It's a more transparent way that people actually think and interface.
I like that. And on the, I don't know if it's the opposite side, but I'd be afraid to type on a typewriter because I feel like I'm still consumed by perfectionism. And so, like, instead of having those conversations out onto the paper, I'll process it first and be like, oh, wait. It has to be perfect. And then nothing will ever get written on that typewriter.
Yeah. Well, that's what's cool about it. You use it to just get those thoughts out, right? When you make a mistake, you take a whiteout and you literally paint out the words. It's so cool. Like, you start the editing process there, and then now you have this transcript of something you're trying to convey, and it's almost in your inner monologue on the page. So then you take that and you edit that piece, But if you start with something like that, I feel like you get closer to whatever the truth is you're trying to tell in your own authentic voice.
Dude, that's so legit. I want to try it.
It's fun. I've been taking a lot of advantage of it. I need to get a fully manual one though, because I want to be able to do it like everywhere.
That's cool. It's and even using it, like that typing, it does something to your brain.
It's explosive. It's somewhat like a firearm. I feel like it's 1/64 of what someone who uses a firearm feels like, the power in the stroke.
Especially if you're in the train of thought and you're just typing it out.
Oh yeah, when you're angry or you're feeling passionate, it all comes out right there.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah, so that's it turns writing into a joyous occasion instead of like a pulling of ideas from your head. Because also I've learned that the only way so I don't know how often you write. Do you write often?
I write now more than I ever did.
Yeah.
But that's not much. But I do.
But still, so you're writing. The ideas for me come all the time, like from random places. But when I go to sit down at the typewriter to type something, I don't know where the ideas come from. They just sort of appear out of nowhere. They kind of just poof. And it's magical every time because you can't anticipate it and you have to get started immediatay.
You can't lose it.
Can't lose it.
Wow.
So it's cool for that. It's it's a way to exercise, it feels like. I'm exercising how I pull information out of my brain.
Your thought muscle.
My thought muscle, yeah.
Wow, okay.
I'm flexing my thought muscle.
You got to work it out. If you don't use it, you lose it.
Right. And whatever sort of ridiculous routine that is, it's fun. And I love to do it. Because I've been writing these, I've been writing a story that I'm going to tell in video format.
Ooh.
About a hero's journey.
Bro, let's go. I want to see that. I'm so excited for all the projects that you have and where you're going, because I know it's true. Like, I know there's purpose behind everything that you're doing, and that's what's going to cross that line. So. Yeah.
I feel motivated. I feel ready. I feel like I'm determined, and I'll die trying, if anything. So.
That's what we need more of in the world.
Right. I tell everyone that every day.
No, we need that because I'm reading this book, and it's called The Speed of Trust. And it talks about, like, in order to gain trust from people, like, your words have to match up with your actions. And, like, it's a leadership book, so it talks about, like, well, how are the people working with you going to trust you? And when there's trust, there's more work, there's a better quality of work, that everything just flows around. But it was just saying, like, if your words don't match up with your actions, if you're just talking about it and not doing it, then people are going to start seeing that and being like, okay, well, yeah, he's, but you're doing it. That's what I'm trying to say. Is like, You're not just talking about having a podcast.
So it's so funny you mentioned that because I literally just had this thought the other day. I literally thought to myself, the reward for good work is better work. I don't know where that came from, but it's true because I feel like if you dig into a project you're passionate about and you give it everything you've got, then the best reward you can get from that is a cooler, better project or job. You know what I mean? So you just do that work and it'll just snowball into whatever it is that you're trying to manifest, you know?
And then you're creating different avenues for people who are gonna come after you.
Right.
Like you're paving a way for someone who doesn't have any direction, and then they find that spark, and then they find a podcast, and all because of an idea that you put into work.
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, yeah. I've got thousands of influences, you know. I pull from all of them. I love influence is super cool because you pass along your influences.
Mm-hmm.
You do it either very forwardly or you don't even realize you're doing it sometimes because they sort of build your character, you know.
Yeah.
When you're shopping for those influences and those mentors, take a little brick from each of them.
Mm-hmm. Build that house, baby.
Build that house up. Yeah. So tell me about skateboarding. Talk to me about everything skateboarding. You started skateboarding when?
Okay, so let me go a little bit back. I remember I was 7 years old, and we were flipping through channels, and I saw like a Tony Hawk competition, and it just so happened to be the competition where he landed like the first 900.
Oh.
Everyone went crazy.
Yeah.
And
it was probably a Saturday morning because I think I remember it.
Oh, wow. So it was, for some reason, on my for my 7th birthday, my godfather asked me, like, what present do you want? And if you can get it, what would it be? And I said, oh, I want a skateboard. And I don't know where I got this skateboard, but this is prior to the Tony Hawk thing. And
Mhm.
so I don't really know where I got the skateboarding interest from. But then and to be honest, I thought it was like a different form of transportation. I thought it was like a bike. Like you just ride it back and forth to the store. So I learned myself by going to the store every day, just like riding it. And I remember there was these kids in the corner who knew what they were doing with the skateboard. And there goes that like craving attention, because I would kind of like side eye them. Man, I hope they notice me, dude. I hope they see my Walmart board and they invite me in the crew. And they never did. But
you still know these kids?
No, I never. They were like way older. So like
Yeah.
I was 7, they were probably
Teenagers.
in high school.
Yeah.
No, like seniors. Like
Senior. Okay.
they were like
yeah, they don't
older,
want to hang
older.
out with. Yeah.
No, they didn't even think twice. They probably like, dude, what is this guy doing? But I got that skateboard, and I remember my mom and my godfather saying, "Are you sure? Like this is dangerous. Like this is not a good thing." And I remember saying, "No, I want it." And so they got it for me, and I used it as transportation. But then when I saw the Tony Hawk thing, after everyone went crazy and I saw the freedom that he had in the air, defying the laws of gravity, I immediately went outside with my skateboard and tried to jump like he jumped, and I got nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't stop there. I grabbed duct tape, and I duct taped my feet to the board, and then I just started jumping around.
Oh damn.
And I got a taste.
That's legit.
I got a taste of the glory, and I fell in love ever since. But this is where it gets a little rocky. There was a group of kids that I hung out with a lot, and back in the day, skateboarding wasn't really a popular thing. And the kids that I chose to hang out with, they made fun of me for it. And they were like, "Oh, why are you trying to be a white boy? Go to Cali with that. That's not something that belongs here." And I'd be like, "Guys, come on. This is
Don't
just
be
a
ridiculous,
skateboard, you
yeah.
know?" And I still decided to hang out with them. And I remember specifically, my mom called me in, and she's like, "Hey, I know you're out with your friends, but you need to come in. I need to talk to you." And I forgot whatever conversation I had. And I came outside, and these guys these jokers were laughing at me.
Hmm.
And I'm like, why are they laughing? What's so funny? And I looked, and they broke my skateboard.
What the fuck, dude?
I know. And I was just, like, so heartbroken. I was like, damn. But these are the guys that like, that's the thing. Like, what I craved was to be accepted by them. And a lot of that time, it was in Summit, for me at least, my perspective, it was like, you go to school, which I'm not good at, or you join a gang.
Damn.
Like, that's it.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, I want to, be cool and hang out with these guys, and eventually maybe I'll make my way into the gang if they let me. But
And how old were you then? That you were still. This was when you were 7.
7,
Yeah.
7 or 8, they broke it, and they laughed and they left, and I was just heartbroken because I was like, that's mine. Second of all, my godfather bought that for me, so that had a lot of significant value. But third, it was like, how could you do that to somebody?
Yeah.
And so a long time passed before I got a skateboard, and eventually when I was 13, there was a girl in my class who remembered that I used to skateboard when I was 7. And she's like, hey, my brother has a skateboard in the garage, and, like, do you want it? And I was like, yeah, of course. That would be really cool. So she got me the skateboard, and this skateboard was so beat up and so, like, I'm sure he gave it away because it was trash. But to me, that was treasure. I was like, oh my, I feel this feeling again. There's freedom in here. And that 13-year-old, that was my 8th grade graduation summer. So I was going into high school. And I was just riding around that thing and hoping that I could learn how to jump like Tony Hawk. But then running into these older kids who were skateboarding. And they were the guys that we would have that giant huddle at high school with.
Oh yeah.
So they changed my life in the way that skateboarding was amazing. They knew all the tricks. Like, I thought they were the most amazing kids because they could kickflip.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never seen that done in my life. And I thought it was insane. So luckily they accepted me into the group. I got to skate with them. They would drive us, like, we would meet up at our friend Jake and John's house, and everyone would meet there, and then we'd all squish into our friend Camille's car, and we'd go to Hickory. And that was my first skate park. That was my first experience. That was my first clique that I got to be a part of. And it was all because of this skateboard. So that old life of those old friends slowly became irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of feel bad because now I see their future was not great. And a lot of them are probably not doing so well.
Yeah.
But skateboarding took me into a different path. And I remember skateboarding, and I remember influencing other kids in my community to start skateboarding. So much so that when we would pass the blocks that were notorious for having the gangs just hang out there, I would get a lot of those kids around that block interested in skateboarding. And they were just coming on and attracted to it. And then the gangbangers would kick me out. And they'd be like, hey, we don't want that here. You're getting the kids distracted. Like, that's not what they need to be focusing on. So they would kick me out. And then I just continued with it. I loved it. It helped me not to feel alone, because I think there's one special thing about skateboarding is that wherever you are with your skateboard, if you find another skater, you're family.
Right.
You are your brothers, your sisters, and it's like there's a community that's just accepting. And I'm like, wow. They don't know my past. They don't know my insecurities, but it doesn't matter because we're just on 4 wheels. So I fell in love with it, and it went on from there.
That's amazing. Super amazing. And obviously you still skate today.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, so this is probably the perfect time for you to tell us about the harbor and what the harbor is and why it has to be.
Why it has to be. Okay. So skateboarding was a blessing and a curse, because in the time I got to skateboarding, I remember watching skateboarding videos with my friends all the time. And they would be like the energy. They would hype us up, and then we'd go out and try all the crazy stuff. But during that time, the culture was influenced by like party, sex, drugs type of skateboarding, where they like glorified that. And I was like, man, this is who I am. I'm a skateboarder. This is what I have to live up to. This is my thing. This is my identity. And I followed that for a long time throughout high school. And I just remember every time I interacted with that environment, I felt less and less, I don't know, like a person. I felt more and more lost. I felt deeper and deeper into, like, I'm not going in the right direction.
Right.
So it felt like, why do I continue to do this? Why am I putting myself through this? And I was in wrestling at the time. So I had wrestling as a structure in school, which I'm so thankful for. But I also had skateboarding outside of school. And I loved the structure, even though the coaches at that time, I thought they didn't know what they were talking about. They were so mean. They disciplined you like they were your dad, but at that time I needed it because I knew that there was a discipline that they were trying to teach.
Right.
And as we know, discipline is hard.
Yeah.
It's not easy, and it has to be consistent, or it's not going to go anywhere. So with the wrestling, that was like my form of structure, but with the skateboarding, it was like that's my party life. That's where I get to hang out with my friends and stuff. And it was just like these two directions that I eventually chose skateboarding over the structure of wrestling. And I quit, and I just delved deep into that party life. And eventually it got to the point where I was doing more partying instead of skateboarding. And in my heart, like, just physically, I was like, man, you're just sitting on a couch, and you're getting high, but you're not doing what you love. Like, this is what frees you. This is what gives you a purpose, and you're not doing that. So that led me into the wrong direction for a long time. And looking back at it, it's like the only way I knew. That's the only way that brought me any type of results with friends, with my self-esteem. And so doing that is like the only thing that gave me any reason,
Right.
I guess, to live.
Yeah.
So eventually that made me feel so lost in a way that it brought me to a place where I didn't even want to finish high school. And I remember telling my mom, like, Mom, I'm going to drop out and I'm going to go to California. This is where skateboarding is at. And she was very cool about it. I'm sure back then she was freaking out. But she was like, okay, well, let's think about it. How are you going to get there? And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe a train, maybe a plane. And she's like, well, how are you going to get money to do this? And I was like, I don't know. I'm going to find a way. I was passionate.
Yeah.
And she's like, how about you finish high school, and then we'll talk about it. And then I, like, finished, and I passed with C's and D's, and I was so happy. I was like, yes, I did it. I passed. I got a degree, and now nobody could tell me anything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm leaving. And then she did the same thing where she was like, well, how are you going to get there? You need a job. And so I got into a job at Moraine Valley Student Life Center.
Mm-hmm.
And that job was amazing because I had a boss who, I was thinking about this on the drive here, like, he didn't have to do everything that he did for me. He was looking out for me. He trained me up. He really gave me the direction behind my desire.
Is that Demetrius?
Yeah,
Demetrius. Yep.
Demetrius Robinson. Yeah, for some reason, he...
Shout out Demetrius Robertson, Moraine Valley Community College.
Moraine Valley. He's in, actually, I think he's not in the state anymore. He got promoted, and he's in a different college, but I don't... But shout out to Demetrius Robinson. He gave me so much grace and so much mercy. I don't know if he saw the brokenness and wanted to help out, but he was very patient with me. He can see that I probably wasn't the most responsible kid, but I wanted to be something. And so he invested his time into me and taught me a lot. He taught me about the politics of professionalism, which was very eye-opening. But I got into that. I got into work, and then he convinced me to go into school. So then I was in school, and eventually during that time, he convinced me also to become the student body president, the student trustee.
Mm-hmm.
And like I had all this educational success that I was like, this is great, but this is not my calling. Like I wanted to skateboard, I wanted to leave, you know? And eventually I got very depressed. I developed like anxiety, where I was having anxiety attacks 3 times a day because I'd go into school at like 7 a.m. and then I wouldn't leave until like 10 p.m. because of the student trustee work. So I was working there, and then I was going to school, and then I was doing the student trustee work. And that was a very dark time for me because I was confused as to why I thought, like, why am I here? Like, I didn't want to get into all of this. This is not where I want to be. I wanted to skateboard, clearly. But I knew that was all for a reason. I knew that there was a vision behind that. And I did the school, but I was struggling with my mental health because I was exhausted, and the only form of escapism that I had was skateboarding, and I wasn't able to do that. And I remember back then trying to build, like, as the student trustee, trying to get like a little skate space I
remember that.
In college, right?
That, yeah.
And the politics of, I would just blanket statement it, the politics of colleges or just high politics was like, it almost felt like, I remember getting excited and talking to the leaders, like the president and the vice president of the school, like, hey, this is what I want to do. Hey, a lot of people are doing it. I think it's going to be a great thing. I think it's going to change a lot of lives. And they were like, you can't do that. Why would you want? That's like, think realistic. That's what they told me. Let's bring it down to realistic. You just stick to the board meetings. And I was like, dang, I felt so low at that time. Like I had I couldn't do what I loved, and the people that were supporting me weren't supporting me. So it got kind of crazier from like in that politics, which is probably the reason why I didn't continue with college, was because I seen some stuff that I was like, I don't know if this is for me, because they were trying to, and I'm sure they had really good intentions, but I didn't like the way that they were doing things higher up.
Right, administration,
and they all had a reason, and it's like to keep the image of college this way. Like it all goes back to perspective.
Absolutely.
But I remember I don't know what day, but there was a specific day, and I was probably getting ready for a board meeting, where I was having so much bad anxiety. The day before that, I told myself, like I seen a commercial, like institutionalized, like maybe you should go for that type of thing, and like go get help. And I remember thinking, like, man, I think I'm crazy, and I'm having like a mental breakdown. If I have another anxiety attack, I'm gonna turn myself in, and I'm gonna go to this place. I'm gonna call them. I don't know, it's an infomercial for something, but at least they'll help. And that next day I had an anxiety attack where I was just like, why do I feel like this? I feel like I'm gonna just drop dead, black out, die.
Yeah.
For what? Why? And I remember it being so bad that I was in the student trustee office and I broke down. I just started crying. I was like, dude, I can't do this. I can't live like this. Another day, it's not worth it. And then that's when I just spoke it out. I said, God, I need your help. I can't do this alone. And from that instant, I felt something change. Like the weight that was on my shoulders was taken away.
How old were you?
I don't know, 17, 18?
17,
Wait,
18?
no. No, we graduated. So maybe 1920.
Okay.
1920, I would say. Yeah, I wasn't 21 yet, so 1920. And then this weight got taken away. But at that same time, there was somebody who was knocking on the door. And I was like, dude, I'm not going to answer it because I just obviously been crying, and I'm a strong-willed person, and I'm tough, you know? So I'm not going to answer it. But something told me to answer it.
Yeah.
And so I opened it. And it was this kid, Anthony, and he was like, hey, dude, I don't know if you know this, but Jesus loves you, and there's free pizza in the other room. I'm like, free pizza? Jesus? Right. Like, I grew up Catholic.
Yeah.
So I had faith. Like, I knew
Yeah.
there was a God, but I was like, all right. The one thing, maybe culturally, was like, you don't talk to those Christian dudes. Like, they don't have it right.
As a Catholic, you
Yeah.
thought that?
Yeah. Like, I was taught that, like, you don't talk to other people. Like, you're Catholic, that's who you are, and that's it. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go for the pizza because I'm super hungry, but you don't talk to me about that.
Sure.
So I went, and I learned about this thing called grace the first day. And this grace thing was just, it messed me up in my head because the whole time I thought, in order for you to have a relationship with God, you have to be perfect first. So my whole time, like, I knew that there was this distant type of relationship that I could have, but I just had to be perfect first. So let me get everything in order. Let me get all the fun out of my system. Then I'll, be celibate and shave my head and become a priest,
Sure.
And it was just, like, not a thought. But then this guy came, and then he talked about grace and how we get what we don't deserve, and how everything that we've done is completely forgiven. I could not understand that. Why? Why would that be?
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't make sense, that someone who has everything would give up everything for you because he loves you. As simple as that. I just couldn't understand. I couldn't comprehend that, because that would mean that I can have this relationship with him. So I wrestled with that for a couple weeks. And I thought, like, God, if there's, like, I know you're real, I know you love me now, but there's this thing that I have, is skateboarding. I don't know what there is for my life.
Mm-hmm.
So, I know it's kind of like a long drawn
Dude, this
out
is
story.
this is all the details we want.
Okay.
Keep going.
Okay, cool. And so, continuing to go to this group, they like invited me to this. It was called this Big Ticket Festival, where they were like, "Hey, we're gonna go to this Christian concert, and we're gonna go as a group, and it's gonna be fun, and we're gonna take a bus." And going back to my cultural roots, I was like, the bus. Like, I heard about this, the bus. Like, somewhere along the lines, I heard that you don't go on that Christian bus because they're gonna make you swallow a goldfish.
What the hell?
I don't know.
Where did you get this?
I don't know where I got this from. I just know growing up, it was like, oh, dude, they do weird, crazy stuff. I'm not going in.
Yeah.
But I felt compelled to go. Like, okay, I'll go. I'll give it a try. But I'm bringing my skateboard, because if it gets crazy, I'm dipping, and I have my skateboard, and that's all I need. Yeah. So we went, and it was a cool time. It was like my first time at a concert like that, so I felt still like weird about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I left, but I didn't know that concert was hosting a skateboard competition.
Really?
Yeah. And I'm like, what the heck?
What are the odds of that?
I brought my skateboard. I didn't know they were holding a skateboard competition. And they were like, hey, anyone who skateboards, you can come in and, be a part of this contest. So I signed up. And I was like the only skater there. So there were a couple other kids, but I joined, I skated, and I was like, am I going to win or not? What's going on? They're like, come back in a couple hours because we're going to have some guys speak and present the board or whatever.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. So I came back, and it was this guy who was sharing his testimony about how his life had been a wreck, and then Jesus came in and changed him. And I was like, yeah, that's cool, man. That's cool. But the only thing keeping me there was the skateboarding part. And then he did something weird where he's like, well, I just have to stop right now. I got to call somebody out of the crowd, and I need to present this to him. And they were like, Emmanuel, are you there? They didn't even know I was there. And then I just broke down, dude.
Damn.
I was like, I've never been called out or noticed like that in my life, ever.
Absolutely.
This attention, this desire to be noticed was fulfilled at that moment, because he called me out and he's like, I don't know what plans you have for yourself, but I know that God has big plans for your life, and you just got to go and follow him. So I was just like crazy. Everyone around me was like crying too, because they were like, oh my God, he chose you. What are the odds? He doesn't even know you. And I was like, I know, like, I don't know what's going on. I don't. And during this whole time, even now I'm not perfect. So during this time, I wasn't like leaving my old self behind. It was that I was just dealing with everything. And as life went on, I still chose a party. I still chose to be who I was, but there was this little seed that was planted in me that you're more than you think that you are. You have more to offer than what you're offering right now. And so they called me out, and they're like, here's some professional skateboarders' numbers. Reach them. I think, just go. So I reached out to these guys, and I got nothing. I got like a year and a half, 2 years of like, well, that was it. That was cool. Like, that was enough. Like, I got noticed. So now I just want to keep feeling this feeling that I felt. And it happened with skateboarding. And they gave me this like a pamphlet of this thing called King of Kings Skate Ministry. And I decided to like look online about what it was. And I think they were like out of date, but there was like another thing called Calling All Skaters that piqued my interest. And so this professional skateboarder, Brian Sumner, like posted it on Instagram. He's like, hey, there's a Calling All Skaters mission trip, and you get to skate for 6 months and do mission, build houses and do whatever. So I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, I know that I won't get accepted, but I'll just try. So during that time, I still felt lost. Like, I know that I'm noticed, but now what? So I joined this, I applied for it, and I didn't have like any communication back. So I thought, this is dumb. Like, I thought I'd be able to do this. Like, there was a tiny hope that maybe I might, and they never called me. And so that time I was working with one of my best friends. His name's Eric, and he's like, bro, why don't you call them? And I'm like, no, dude, I don't want to bother them. Like, obviously they didn't call me for a reason. He's like, dude, just call them, get it over with, because if they tell you no, then you'll know, and you'll stop wondering, get over and go on with your life. And I was like, all right, cool. I called them, and they're like, hey, what's going on? And I said, hey, I just, I applied a couple months ago, and I just wanted to know if you, am I denied or what's going on? They're like, we don't have you in the system. I'm like, what? I applied. They're like, no, well, let me check the back. And you could hear like them shuffling around papers, and they're like, wait, this is your application. This was never given to us. You need to contact us tomorrow, like right away. And they gave me all the information. They were like, you're accepted, but we never knew. And then that helped me to learn that if you never go out there and knock on a door, you won't know the outcome. You won't know what's on the other side.
Absolutely.
Because I would have just been content with, well, they didn't want me. And then felt like I had to go in a different direction. But sometimes you have to step out and pursue, and the reward is there. So it was like this crazy thing that I was like, hey, I got accepted to go to this like mission trip. And when I was telling everybody, I was met with, dude, you don't think that's like sketchy, skateboarding, and they're gonna put Jesus on it? Like, that's like weird, dude. Like, are you sure this is legit? Like, what if they just want to steal your money? What if they steal you? Like, you've never heard of something like that. And I was like, yeah, you're right, man. Maybe this is sketchy. There was always this back and forth of why I shouldn't do things. So I decided to get uncomfortable and go forward. And I was like, okay, well, what next? And they're like, well, you gotta raise money, because we're all doing this together, and we're all raising money to get here. And then that made no sense everybody. Like, why are you raising money so that you can help out and volunteer? That does not make any sense. But anyways, my mom believed in me, and she was so stoked about it. She was like, okay, well, guess what? We're going to get the whole family. We're going to sell tamales, and we're going to make this happen. And so my mom just, like, gathered up the family, and they made tamales. And they were helping me in raising support as I was doing this. And during the first 3 months, I was living in LA with these guys from all different parts of the country and the world. We had some guys from Chile, from Sweden, Tennessee, North Carolina, all over the place. And I got to meet them, and those are my brothers till this day. Because we were learning about what we were going to do. It's called discipleship training. So you were learning like how to interact with people. You were learning how to help people, how to pray with people, how to really add value to other people's lives. But at the same time, it was kind of like you were sleeping on floors every day, different churches.
Yeah.
It was rough, but I enjoyed it because that's what I was used to at home.
Yeah, absolutely.
So bringing it all back, that trip helped my eyes to see my calling, what you can do with a skateboard, and how God can use what you're passionate about. And so going back to high school, where I wanted to live in California, I was so stoked to be there,
Yeah.
but my heart stayed in Chicago. And I remember feeling like so bummed about that. I'm like, why do I don't feel right here. I'm here where I want to be, but all I can think about is my friends back home and how they need to know that they're loved. They need to know that they have identity. They need to know that they have hope. I need to let them know that. And that's when I knew, like, you have to be in Chicago and you have to invest your time, your effort, and your resources to these kids, because a lot of them are like you, where they don't know. They don't feel noticed.
Right.
And they're dying to be noticed. So that was like the first fruits of the harbor of the vision. Like, in my head, I got a little glimpse, a little taste of it, where it was like I closed my eyes and I got to see myself in an indoor skate park, and I had a microphone. I was speaking. I don't know about what, but that was like the vision. And I was like, okay, God, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I want to do something. So I came to this skate park, and I brought a grill, and I just started grilling, and everyone thought I was so weird because they were like, dude, that food's probably poison. I'm sure they were thinking that, like, why is he giving out free food? What's the catch?
That's so funny.
And so when people would approach me and I was grilling, giving away hot dogs, I'd be like, nope, I'm just doing this because Jesus loves you. That's it. And they were like, oh, okay. And they'd take the hot dog and leave. And that just started to become addicting to me. Like, I want to be able to feed the community.
Right.
Like, there's kids out here who don't have food, and if they can come here and know that they're loved, they're accepted, and that they can have free food, that's what I want. And so I started doing that in the summertime. And I knew I had to be an indoor skate park because come wintertime, I couldn't do this.
Right.
And that's where the struggle is, because half the season it's cold and it's not able to be done. So I was like, how do I make this a permanent place, a permanent harbor for people to come in to safety and dock in and be able to feel loved? And it was just like, you have to build an indoor skate park. You have to be consistent, because we could do this for a season, and if it's not consistent, what are we really doing? So a vision of the harbor quickly became to have an indoor space where you can create opportunity for God to move. And if it's just to let people know, hey, that there's hope, then I believe that's doing the job. And to be able to have a skate park for skateboarding specifically, I want to create a place where people can learn their craft and perfect it, and then get out in the streets and do what they learned at the skate park in the streets. And that's my passion for the skateboarding aspect of it. But it's also the health of the mental health, the spiritual health, the physical health of somebody. Because I don't want it to just be skateboarding. I want it to be an opportunity to learn that you have resources. Like, I want to develop programs where it's financial resources and how to manage your finances, physical health, different avenues of mental health, and meditations, and also the physical part of stretching and different things as skateboarders to create longevity.
Right. So skateboarding being the conduit for all of these other amazing endeavors, which just basically build up a whole person.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just like have opportunity for these guys to get to eventually get a job, but eventually to know that you have a support behind you and you have these crazy ideas like I had, and we're going to support you. We're going to make it happen. We're going to find a way.
Right.
So I just want everyone to be able to stand on my shoulders and take them further. And then when I'm gone, they have that block to build upon.
Right.
So
That's amazing.
thank you.
That's amazing. And so right now there's the effort to get the space in the Ford City Mall, correct?
Yes, we have an opportunity to. They actually
So hang on. What city is that mall in?
Chicago.
That's in Chicago?
Mhm.
That's at Cicero, and what is it? Or where's it at?
It's like Cicero and 71st ish.
71st and
maybe.
Cicero? Okay. So
I actually have a
southwest side of the city.
really quick question.
What's up?
Can I use the bathroom?
Yeah, dude, go for it.
I have to go, but I don't
You're going to have to run probably to like one of the
to
Jewel or
Yeah,
something.
I have to go.
All right, go take a set. I'll pause everything.
Okay.
Do your thing. Yeah, take
Okay.
your time.
Oh my gosh.
Dude,
Are you sure?
you should have said something
you
like
sure?
10 minutes ago.
I was holding it, but now I can't.
Bro, go.
Okay.
Better?
I'm so sorry. Did I ruin it?
No, you're good. I'm just wondering, these mics are doing really well. They're not clipping at all in the wind.
Really?
Yeah, it's good.
I was like, no, I could hold it, I could ignore it, and then I couldn't.
It's fine, dude. You should. Yeah, no, don't hesitate ever in a podcast.
Oh, are we back?
So we're back.
Oh, all right. Sorry. Is this the first time this happened?
The first time? No, it happens all the time, actually.
No, I'm saying in your podcast, has anyone taken an abrupt?
Oh no, not like that, but that's fine. But we're in a unique setting here, and we sort of jumped right into it. Normally, there's like a bathroom handy. You know, got to ride your skateboard. Had a couple blocks. To
Okay.
you know,
It was a mission, but we got there. I feel like a new man.
for sure.
All right.
It's a lot to ask, you know, to sit here and just not think about taking a piss for an hour and a half.
Yeah. I was like, if I could ignore it, it'll go away. But it was just like, nope, it's not gonna happen. So.
That's great.
Okay. All right. You were asking.
Okay, so you were just telling us about. So we just learned about the inception for the idea
Mhm.
that is the harbor, and now we're talking about the indoor space, the space that there's a GoFundMe campaign right now,
Yeah.
and there's a campaign to acquire this space at the Ford City Mall on the southwest side of Chicago, and it's looking pretty promising.
Yeah.
Like things are picking up. They're panning up. It's gaining speed, and people are getting excited about this resource in our city.
And I think it's going to be a really great thing. We just need to raise the money to get in there.
Right.
And I know that it's going to take a little step-by-step of being able to get the funding, but then, like, make sure that the lights are correct and, like, everything's adjusted to where we're not getting
Yeah, it's
filed
outfitted.
with permits and all that, yeah.
Right. It's got to be on the up and up.
Yeah.
Everything. Yeah.
And so, just really quick, starting with that passion and that desire of the harbor, I decided to, and this is the reason why I'm making this point, is that I decided to create a not-for-profit for it, label it the Harbor Chicago.
Yeah.
And we became a 501c3, which is amazing, and a lot of people are like, that's a lot of work. And
It's a lot of work. You got to come up with what, $5,000 in this city, right? In this state?
it was like a
Yeah.
ton of steps.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
the point that I want to make is I'm still figuring it out, and I'm still
Sure.
learning as I go along. And coming back to the building is that, like, I don't know. I just know we can sign the lease, we can get in there, we can move on to the next steps. But at the same time, I don't know. I'm figuring it out.
Right.
And
We need some sort of endowment.
we're doing it together.
Yeah.
That's the beautiful part of it, is that as long as we keep stepping forward, something's gonna happen.
Yeah, and there are similar entities, but none quite the same in the format that you have envisioned. So that's wholly unique. And I think, well, the whole point of talking about it is so that people can get excited about it, because it's such a great idea and would be such an amazing resource for our city to have somewhere for the youth to spend their time in the winter around skateboarding and being creative and learning and gathering knowledge and sharing joy and sharing food and meals and just having friends and a place to be and a place to belong.
Yeah, it's I think it's important in the fact that if it's not consistent, like, I've had guys that I love, and because they're not able to do it in the winter, they're not able to be, I would say, encouraged, mentored, given direction to. I've seen them fall away, and then I don't see them again.
Right.
And that's heartbreaking, because, like, when you develop a relationship with these guys, you know them inside out, you get to talk to them, and then they're gone.
They split, yeah. They're on their own thing.
So if it could be a consistent thing, imagine how many kids would feel loved and supported.
Yeah, and it's also a unique I don't know if you thought of it this way, but it's a really unique experiment in city planning and how the community interfaces with the buildings and structures in it, because malls and retail are a thing that's sort of falling to the wayside, and there's this huge vacant space just sitting there. It's vacant for the most part, right?
Yeah.
At least this specific space. So it's an amazing way to re-envision how people interface with these sort of buildings that are all over our country.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as retail is going away and there's no need for that sort of consumerism in such a large space, what are we going to fill those spaces with? They should be resources for the community.
Yeah, I think it's a cool opportunity.
Yeah.
Like something that they have one in Michigan, and I got to go there this year. Not this year, the end of last year. And the way it looks like a storefront in the mall, but then you walk in.
Oh, this one's in a mall as well.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
You walk in, and it's a skate park, and it's a really, really good skate park. And like I reached out to them because I never knew that it could happen, but seeing that it could happen, it gave me some insight to keep pursuing it. But just the fact that it works,
right,
gives me hope.
What's the name of that one?
Battleground.
Battleground in Michigan.
Yeah. And to my knowledge, that's the only one that I know of that's in a mall.
Interesting. But a similar concept as well.
Yeah. So they take care of their community.
Okay, that's awesome.
But
so they've sort of have the blueprint in a way. Granted, it's in a whole other state in a probably less miserable county to do business in.
Yeah, exactly. That's my thing, is like everyone that I talk to who's doing things like this.
Have you spoke with the aldermen or alder people of?
I did.
You have?
Yeah.
How do they feel? How do they respond?
When I told them the vision, they were like, "Oh, sounds great. Let us know when you're moving forward."
Okay.
And I got the okay right away, and I was super nervous to call them because I was like, "Oh my gosh,
dude, you know we should get we should try and get a sponsor for you, like Pepsi, dude.
that would be cool."
I think it's possible. I really do.
But you pointed something out in the conversation that we had at the coffee shop. Strange Brew, shout out Strange Brew.
Stroud Strange Brew, Palos Hills, Illinois.
That you just keep emailing people. You just keep reaching out.
Oh yeah, you got to be relentless. Every week. I email Werner Herzog like 3 times a week. But it's this documentary filmmaker, this obscure German documentary filmmaker I'm obsessed with.
See, but that's the consistency part. Like, you just consistent in your relentlessness.
I have something when I'm doing it. They have something I need,
Yeah.
and only I can use it in a way. I don't know. I, in a strange way, it's like a way of should feel flattering to
Yeah.
them, I suppose, or whomever that I'm hounding. But realistically, I just see that they have figured something out that I don't know yet. So I got to figure out, like, that's a shortcut. It could be a little cheat code for life, and pick their brain and just see how they interface, because, like I've said earlier, there's so much valuable information in just seeing how people can work, how they work. And so even if it's just to sit down and have a conversation, not even collaborate on a project with, I'm just relentless, and I want to talk to these people.
But that's such a valuable. Is it a habit? That's just a valuable thing that you've learned.
I mean, who's going to take it seriously if you don't take it seriously?
Exactly.
So that's why, I mean, it's silly, but like I call when I'm at my desk, I'm in my office. You know, when I'm painting, I'm in my studio. When we're doing a podcast, where if it's on location, like, it's legit. You know.
Yeah.
It's all got to be legit. It already is legit. As far as I'm concerned, all of these things already exist. It's just a matter of, like, paperwork and time and crap like that.
When you told me that, I thought about that on the way home, and I was like, wow. That is the perspective you need to have for things to get done, because if they're already done in your head like that, then everything follows through.
Yeah. You sort of, and it's an easy, I don't know if it's easy, and I don't want to say it's manipulative, but when you're talking to someone and, like, you can feel what you've been planning is on the precipice, if you just use the verbiage like, all right, dude, you got me, we're good, dude,
Yeah.
we're going to make this happen, and they convey it, then they get stoked. And they're like, yeah, okay, yeah, that's done already. Sure, let's do that.
And I think it's important because you help them to feel included. And if you don't ever extend that hand out, they probably don't know. Like, they're like, oh, they probably have the intentions to help, but they're like, we don't know how to help. What do you need? So, like, when you said reaching out to Pepsi, like, these are things I just don't think about.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know about Pepsi, but I'm saying, like, a corporate sponsor.
That's the thing. It's like I don't think about those things. That's why I need more Charlie in my sphere of influence.
We'll collaborate, no doubt.
Yeah, because
I love your mission. I love the story. I'm down. You know what I mean? I have a very similar thing. I don't know if I told you this when we hung out last week or 2 weeks ago.
Tell me.
I don't want to talk about it right now because it's such in its infancy, but I will certainly tell you about it, about my goals.
Okay.
That are in my academic career and for the community of Chicago. So,
Sweet.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'll certainly tell you. It's all this is just what I realize I have to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dude, let's go. That's the thing, is like, I get excited. I say let's go because that's what's required, is going.
Yeah, just go.
Go.
Get to work, yeah. It starts by having these conversations, though. So that's why this is important. This is why this has to exist. We have to collect these conversations because there's so many people on the precipice of so many amazing things. We got to know about it.
Yeah.
The world's got to know about it.
And if we don't speak about it, we don't know about it. So
yeah.
Anyone who's on the brink of having a podcast opportunity with Charlie, just go.
Just go.
We need these things documented.
We got to have it. The people demand it.
We need it.
All right, so we're just about the 90-minute mark here. Is there anything, Emmy, that you want the people to know?
First and foremost, yeah, like, I think I get this, like, people have this perception of me that I'm perfect or that I have everything figured out. And the thing I just want to lay out in there is that I'm not perfect. I don't have everything figured out. I mess up all the time. And I'm still learning as I go along. As long as I'm here on this earth, I'm a student, and I'm learning, and I'm willing to grow. So don't look at me like I'm perfect, because I'm not. I really am not. The second thing is we would love, for anyone listening, we would love to have the opportunity to partner with you and to help make this vision become a reality, because without you, it can't happen. and we would love for you to be a part of it, because it could change your life, and it can help you to have a different perspective when you see all the kids that are being impacted, and the positive influence that they're going to have around them. I think that it's going to be an amazing thing. And for it to be in Ford City, a lot of people say that that isn't the best neighborhood, and why do you got to do it in Chicago? It's not the best county, but I think that we need to be in the broken places, because that's who needs this. And if we can just help one person, if we can just help one person see that they're loved, that they have a reason to be alive, that they are worth everything, they aren't worth less, that we'd be doing our job. So I don't know what else could I say.
How can people find the harbor and help donate to the harbor?
If you go on to our website, www.theharborchicago.org, it'll be all right there where you can donate. And then the cool thing about our donation page is you can see how close we are to our goal. So right now we're at the $6,000 mark. And if we get to $10,000, we can sign that lease and go forward. We'd be getting access to the place. Then we'd be able to build and go on to these next steps and have that opportunity become that much closer. So we're only a couple $1,000s away, and I'm so excited because I know what's around the corner. I know that this is going to be a place that is going to create life-changing things for generations to come. Because it's not just about what I can do, it's what you can do and what you can pass on. So I would love for you to be a part of it.
Amazing. And so you guys are on Instagram.
We're on Instagram.
You got Twitter. You're tweeting all the time.
No, I'm not tweeting. I never jumped on the Twitter train because I don't know how to use it. I feel so.
It seems like it's just stream of conscious. Like whatever the hell you're thinking about, let's talk about it.
If you can go back, we're past the 90-minute mark, so I can't.
No, we're good. I want to wrap all this stuff up because I know. All right, so we should. I don't know if I said this earlier, but it's the first weekend in March, and it's going to be 70 degrees today. The kids are going to take over the skate park probably.
Oh yeah.
Within the next hour, so that's going to be sick. But yeah, so I want to tell people where they can find you. Go to theharborchicago.com.
.org.
And Instagram, The Harbor Chicago. And
YouTube, The Harbor Chicago.
YouTube, The Harbor Chicago.
Oh.
When's the mixtape come out?
The mixtape comes out when we have the building. I
right.
will make a mixtape. That would be
Spotify then. The Harbor Chicago.
That would be cool. We could have a little jam. What was I gonna say? Oh, it's a 501c3, so everything is tax exempt. We give you a receipt and everything. It's legit.
Oh, okay. Right off for the IRS. And,
yes.
If that concerns you.
All that good stuff.
Yeah, give your money away. Everyone loves giving their money. I love giving my money away. You guys should too. To great causes. Man, what else are you gonna do with it?
Because that dollar goes farther than we can. I mean, we're physical, but that could be given to.
It means so much. The dollars literally synthesize into smiles on people's faces.
If this piques interest, if this gains traction, can we do like a part 2 or something?
For sure, absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to have you back.
On the other side.
On the other side. We'll do one. You know what? We'll check in once you guys sign that lease and everything. Once you start the build process, we'll check in then. We'll check in a few times.
Please.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah. And I'd love to get some footage of... Oh, I've got to get some footage of you guys building that place. There should be, some documentary style.
And also, even if you can't help out with finance, you can still help out by volunteering time to build it.
Right. Because
everyone can use a hammer and a nail, and that's what I want to do. Is I want to make it to where everyone's a part of this in one way. Where even if when this happens, you can say, I helped build that. Right. I laid that nail down there. And then that'll last forever.
Right. Until it gets better, until it gets improved the next time.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. So, Emmy, thank you so much for being a guest. This has been awesome. And we've got a bright day ahead of us.
Dude, thank you, Charlie. I love you, man. We're brothers for life, so
No doubt.
I love talking to you. For everyone who already follows Charlie, he's so amazing, and he's helped me out so much just being himself. So he's amazing. I love him.
All right. Have a good day, everyone.
Have a good day.
We did it, Em.
Did we do it?
We did it, man.